Firstly, I would like to again apologize on behalf of the center, both centers, Center for the Study of Race and Ethnicity in the Americas and the Center for the Study of Slavery and Justice. Apologize for the breakdown. I want to apologize also on behalf of media services because they're in charge of the systems here, and those systems broke down. And really to thank you all for your patience and good humor. I think, as I said, that technology is not invincible, and these things happen. There is when technology was beginning to take off, there was a comedian that whose name I forget now, but he used to say, in talking about technology, it's only a wire. And that, things happen to wires. So again, thank you very much for your patience and your good humor. My apologies. It is really with tremendous pleasure and honor that I welcome on behalf of both centers to Brown University, and an alum, as well as an alum from Toulouse, and the star of the feature, the star of the series, or the clip really, that we just saw next door, the Book of Negroes, Aunjanue Ellis. I think we just saw, even though it was almost in two versions, and I was beginning to think towards the end of what we just saw, the chapter that we just saw, I was beginning to think, oh, I actually didn't mind the thing breaking down because I could pause for a moment and reflect, and then almost like a piece of music, rewind it to begin to get to the last part of it. It's really very powerful acting, and my congratulations. What we wanted to do is not a conversation between us, but really open up the floor to question and answers from the folks who saw it. And so, for the next, the next 15, 20 minutes or so, the floor is really yours to ask her a set of questions, and then for her to respond. Can I ask people to, when they're asking the questions, don't give a speech. Let's try and get two questions, so that she, the only person who can give a speech is she. All right? Right? So everybody else is ready to ask questions. And then there are two mics down here because we are recording this. Right? And so that when you're asking your question, if you can't just walk to either of the two mics and then ask your question, and then Ms. Ellis will respond. Thank you very, very much for coming.
Oh, right? Thank you so much. Thank y'all for coming. Thank you very much.
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Hello, are we here?
Yes.
Yep. Boopity-beep. Oh, okay. Oh, there we are. Yeah, thank you, Brown 95. And thank you for that just moving performance. I mean, I can't wait to see the whole thing. New history. I'm going to not make a speech. And Lou said, we as actors love to learn about humanity through our work. And Lou said that he didn't even know that the Book of Negroes existed. Neither did many of us. Can you tell us some of the things that you learned working on this project?
Well, I didn't know about the Book of Negroes at all. I had to do research before I auditioned for the project, and that's when I found out about it. I think there's a great deal of presumption about Canadian history. I think that we have this perception of Canada that is not really what it is. And one of those perceptions is that, first of all, that they didn't have slavery on their land, and that if you came to Canada, you were treated as a human being. And those things are not true. They're not borne out by what we know about history. I did know about the Black Loyalists. The Black Loyalists were African Americans who served on the side of the British because they were promised freedom if they served on the side of the British. And in return for their servitude, or their serving with the British, they were promised land and 40 acres and a mule, and so on and so forth. And that didn't bear out. They went to Canada, and these were largely Southern people, and they were tilling soil that was like this. I don't know if you guys have been to Nova Scotia, but imagine planting something in that. So they didn't have the land that they were promised, and they were forced to sort of carve a life out of something that was completely new for them. So I didn't know about this history at all. And actually last week, we went to the National Archives in Washington, D.C. and saw the actual copy of the Book of Negroes. It's preserved there. I recommend all of you going there and seeing it. It's really breathtaking. And it's the first record of our existence here in America. It's the first record that we existed. And so you look at the book, and you see Imani Wilson, fine wench, 25, Baker, how many children she had, and I mean it very, very small little capturing of these people, but it was the first time somebody said they existed. So I didn't know any of that, and I'm fascinated by this history. I'm fascinated by these people. When we went to Nova Scotia, I met a lot of the descendants of the Black Loyalists who still are living in Shelburne and Lunenburg, and and they're there. They're a great group of women, and they're preserving this history for all of us.
Good, thanks.
My name is Rose Brown 2000. You're fabulous. I know. Every nuance. But I want to ask about that technical side of it. Locations, how long did it take to shoot, and things like that.
Well, we started shooting, what's today's date?
29th of January.
Okay. I arrived in South Africa, I think the 26th or 27th of last year. We started shooting on February the 3rd of last year. We shot from February the 3rd until May the 20th, right around there. We had maybe a week and a half to 2 week break, with the exception of maybe 5 days. I shot every day.
For those 3 months?
For those 3 months. And it was hot. In Africa, when you see me running through the jungles of Africa, I was actually running through the jungles of Africa, laying down and ants, all kinds of, I don't know what kind of insects they were, but they were crawling all over me. We had insect wranglers move, here comes another one. You don't want to get bit by that, so it was very, very real. And then when we went to Nova Scotia, we actually shot in Nova Scotia. We shot there in April and May of last year, and it was cold. So we as actors, a whole group of community of people, wonderful, wonderful people. What you see on screen in terms of the elements, there were no heaters. It was all, we were experiencing that. And the director and the producer, it was really important for them to have that authenticity. Yeah.
It looked real. I just want to say.
Okay. They tried to do that.
Siobhan Starling Lewis. I am not a Brown alum. I'm a local pastor. But my question is, considering the timeline of when you all were shooting and the racial setting here in America at the same time, particularly issues around the Gardner case and Ferguson, obviously you're adding to the depth of our understanding of our own history. How did it all play into your understanding of your work and how it might set in this setting that is current? Because I think it does offer so much, and I'm really excited to see the rest of the miniseries. But for you as an actress, did it ever kind of intersect in your processing or anything about that?
Well, I kind of live at that intersection. Yeah. All day, every day. You know, before this, after this. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think unfortunately, because we want so badly, I think the human spirit wants to see the good, you know? And so when things like that happened, it's sort of like this rupture of how we imagine ourselves. But it's unfortunate because, unfortunately, it's a continuum. Yeah. It's a continuum of violence that we have done to each other since our existence on this planet. And we have to look at it like that. We have to look at it as an ill that we have not dealt with. When people say, oh God, here's another slavery story, and my reaction to that, well, you know, when we stop having slaves, then we won't have anything to talk about. Then this will be archaic, this will be a fossil, you know, but that's not the case. I mean, the numbers in terms of like slavery in the world, like it's in the millions. I mean, people still traffic in human bodies. Absolutely. So it's worth our talking about. But you know, I certainly, all of those things, I didn't feel them any less. I didn't feel them. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't like what I'm saying is I didn't feel them more. Okay. Because I'm not surprised. Yeah. I'm not surprised because we have not done the hard work that we need to do yet.
Well, thank you for contributing.
Thank you. Come on.
Sure.
Thank you so much for your film. It was amazing. I had two questions. One is about, did the people in Nova Scotia or South Africa get to see the film? Or did you speak to them about the Book of Negroes or what you guys were doing, and what were their reactions to the process of you guys making the film? And then the other one was, did you learn anything new about liberty or freedom through making this film?
I liked your last question. Thank you for that. Thank you for that last question. We haven't shown it in South Africa. South Africa was a very interesting experience, if you can imagine. There's a lot of filming that's happening in South Africa. And South Africa's I think you could have a whole other about that, you know, whole other thing. All those things that we think have sort of like disintegrated from that place have not. And we saw those things in our infrastructure, our hierarchies when we were working, like who were the people who did certain kinds of jobs and the people who ran the departments. And so it was a real head trip the entire time, you know. And there was a whole thing about hair for me on the and I'm telling a lot of black women in here, a lot of white women in here, because you know all of us, white or black, we deal with our hair when we come to work, right? It's a thing we have to deal with that men don't. You have your own thing, but like women, oh my God. So you know, we had it was really important to me that the director and the producer wanted this to have as much authenticity as possible. That's why we shot in Africa, that's why we shot in Nova Scotia. But for me, I wanted to play my part in that too. And I wanted to defend every choice that she made, and I wanted to make sure that it had integrity considering her circumstances. So with her hair consideration, I made sure that when she was around her husband, that she wanted to look cute. You know, a lot of times we see these portrayals of women who are enslaved, that sort of goes by the wayside. We always want to be beautiful. Like, that's a part of who we are. And so I fought for that. And the person who was the hair person didn't understand that. She didn't understand that. And we battled. We battled. But, you know, for her it was just a job. She's not here having to defend us in front of a group of people. You know, I have to, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to do that with some fortitude. So anyway, that was the South Africa thing. So, and we haven't shown it in South Africa, and it would be interesting to see how they would react to it there. I'd be really interested to see that. We did show it in Nova Scotia last night. The Black Loyalists are like amazing. There are some amazing people, and they went all out. They made us feel so welcomed. And it wasn't just about the Loyalists. I mean, all of them, black and white, they were so proud of the story. What's interesting is that this is playing in Canada now, and it is breaking ratings records. Ratings records. I guess CBC is their equivalent of PBS here. So it is the most watched drama there in 25 years. Wow. You know, and day before yesterday, we went to Parliament. We sat in the chamber. They introduced us to Parliament. All of Parliament stood up and clapped for us. And before that, we did book signings and took pictures. And there were all these people coming up, and they were all parliamentarians and ministers and everything coming up and taking our pictures. And then when we went into the chamber, we sat on the, in the viewing section, and we looked down and we saw books, the Book of Negroes, like scattered on everybody's desk. And then I was seeing who had come by and wanted to take pictures with us. And so the conservatives are on one side of the room, the liberals are on the other side of the room, the socialists are on another side of the room. The green people, they got two chairs, down in the end. But I looked, and it was a lot of people from the Conservative Party. Were coming and wanting to take pictures with us and saying, thank you so much for this book, and this, my wife loves this, and I can't wait to get home at 9 o'clock tonight because I have to see this. So that to me says that this story, which is a traveling story, can travel. And it doesn't have to be a story. Not that is a bad thing. I mean, I feel like we have segregated our histories, and that's a total lie. All of this is our history. All of it is our history. February is Black History Month. I hate it. Because it is our history, all of it. And when we make a concerted effort to sort of braid our histories, then I say this all the time, a fourth grade girl in Topeka, Kansas, who's like a fourth generation Asian, will see Harriet Tubman or Aminata Diallo is just as much her hero as someone who looks like her. When we do history right here in this country, and Canada is living that example. So yeah, we showed it in front of the Nova Scotians, and they liked it. They liked it. So the last thing that you said, and I'm sorry, Lawrence Hill wrote this book. Please read the book if you can. It's off the chain. It's really good. Anybody in here who's read the book? It's good, right? Yeah. It's a great book. And what I love about the character is that she's a writer. She's an author. She wanted to be an author, and she wanted to do that when she had chains on her ankles, And I love that she is a figure, a voice of artistic integrity. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's what I found out.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hello, glasses.
My name's Viola. I'm class of '02, and congratulations on your success in your career so far.
Thank you so much.
I'm curious for you to talk a little bit about that, your trajectory as an actress. What's it been like? I think we have a friend in common, Carmen Gill.
Yes!
Yeah.
Carmen went here.
She did. She
That's
did.
my girl.
So she talks a lot about the struggles of acting,
Yes.
and I'm sure you have stories. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Well, I'm grateful. I gotta say, the reason that I'm sitting here in this chair right now is because of this man that's sitting right here, Jim Barngill. Jim plucked me out of the path that I was going on, and I don't know what that path is or what it was, but he plucked me out of it, and he brought me here to Brown to study acting, and it just completely changed my life. I graduated from NYU in '95, so in May it'll be 20 years that I've been acting professionally, and life for me ain't been no crystal stair. But there have been stairs, and some people don't have no stairs as actors. So I'm very grateful. I have my friend Amani Wilson out here in the audience, and she's had to endure me 1,000 times, screaming and crying, talking me off the ledge 1,000,000 times, and thank God. But I mean, for me to be, I'll be 46 in 2 weeks. And for me to be the lead of like a miniseries, I mean, it's a wonderful thing. I am so grateful. I'm so grateful. My last will and testament could have been written a long time ago, in terms of like what the Hollywood shelf life for women. And I could complain, but I won't complain. Y'all know that song, I won't complain. So I'm happy to be here and to be back at my school, and I'm just happy to be here. I'm so grateful, and thank you for coming and seeing this. Please tell everybody about it.
Yes, please.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Jessica, class of 2014. My question is, when taking the role of Aminata, what were your personal aspirations or hopes for yourself personally, as well as for your viewers, whether that be the U.S. as a whole, or the Black community, the white community, whoever you saw as your target audience, your target audience for this particular series? What were your hopes for yourself personally, as well as for your viewing audience in a tangible, day-to-day type of aspiration, and have those transformed since you've been done filming and now that the series is available for viewing?
What did you study here?
Health and human biology.
Okay, because I'm always interested why people ask questions. So I wanted to ask that question. What I wanted when I got the job is I just didn't want to let the people who gave me the job, I didn't want to let them down. I really sort of look at Aminata as someone very, very different from myself. She is someone who is an 18th century person. She is African. I'm neither of those things. So when I came to work every day, it was my job to tell that woman's story. I could have done a great deal of presumption because I am African American, and said, well, this is what I have in common with her. But I have Southern roots, I'm the descendant of slaves. This woman was not a descendant of slaves. Her parents were not slaves. So all those things, they affected how I walked, how I talked. I had to do an African accent, and I wanted to be believable. I really wanted to be believable. I didn't want anybody to be distracted by me, if that makes any sense. So that was what I came to work doing. That's what I wanted to do when I came to work every day. And then after that's done, now it's over, I really, really believe that this story is everybody's story. And I don't think, I'm not confusing that with universality. Like when people say, oh, it's a universal story, everybody's story is universal, but everybody's story is human. And that's why it's worth telling. And we can see ourselves in the reflection of humanity, not because, oh yeah, I've been through that. I haven't been through what that woman went through. I haven't been through that. That's what I'm talking about, presumption. But I still get inspiration from it. I still glean courage from it, and I still want to see it. This woman was so in love with her husband, you know, just so in love with her husband, and you don't see that. You don't see, unfortunately, you just don't see black women and black men expressing love for each other in that way. You just don't see it. I mean, we have black heroines on television now, but that's not expressed, you know. And there's, if it is, it's pathologized. It's shame to it. No, this is like a black man and a black woman loving each other shamelessly. Like, I love you. Where you going? I want to go. Even if somebody gonna kill me, I want to be there. You know. I think that's remarkable. I think people who have survived, you know, lovers who survived the Holocaust, lovers who survived wars from all centuries all over the world can get with that, and that's exciting to me. The prospect of that is exciting to me for people to see.
Yes, please.
Hello, I'm Elon, class of 2014, also former Slavery and Justice Fellow. And while I was with Slavery and Justice, I worked through I created a list of about 60 different films on slavery. And I really, really appreciated your representation of enslaved women in film, because there have been some really ugly versions and some really beautiful versions, and yours were definitely one of the best. So while I'm on that, I've recently rewatched Roots for the millionth time, and a lot of people have been trying to draw parallels between Roots and Book of Negroes. And so I noticed that in Canada, it's being shown on their version of PBS. And originally, it seemed like it might have been shown here on PBS, but instead it's on BET. And so can you speak at all to the reasons why it's being shown on BET and how that may kind of isolate the film so that there's a smaller audience for it versus on public broadcasting, on ABC? I would just love to hear what you may have heard from producers or what you might know about it.
Well, I don't know a lot about how that played out in terms of like where it landed. I know that from what I understand, I think they sought BET. They might have gone to other places, but BET was a place that they wanted to go to. I think that, you know, Aminata says that she tells the abolitionists at some point, I don't think you guys have seen this yet, but she wants to write her own story. She doesn't want anybody doing it for her. She wants to tell her own story. And I think there's something to say about a network saying that we can do great programming for our viewers, no matter what color they are. So I like the idea of, I hate the idea that our art is segregated, and we don't live that life in the real world. I mean, you know, so, but it I don't know, it's frustrating to me. You're asking me something that I'm a little frustrated with right now and still working it out. And I'm going to be very candid with you. You probably noticed that there are no billboards, there are no ads for this show. Thank God you are here, because maybe you can go tell somebody about it. And I think that's a problem. And I think that is a reflection of something that I feel that needs to be addressed, you know. And I think that it's unfortunate that even though it is on BET, there's something to be said for why isn't it? being publicized as much as it should be. You know, I have some friends of mine who are very fabulous in New York, and they know it all, but they don't know anything about the series, and I think that's problematic. You know, and I would hate for us to lose this opportunity, because I think whether you think it's good or not, I feel that these stories. I think this is a significant story. No matter whether it's creative merits or not, I think the story is significant, and I want people to know about it. I want people to know about it, not for my own, what I would get out of it, but I feel like discussing these stories are important for us as human beings. They are important. So you're asking me something that is still sort of like I'm trying to work out, you know, still working out. But I'm here because this is a part of my way of taking this to the people, because the power don't want to hear it, you know? So yeah.
Can I take 2 more questions?
I just, a quick comment on that note.
Microphone, please.
Okay. On that note, also in this country, the book is published under a different name. So wouldn't that make it even harder for the public to access it? I mean, if somebody didn't realize it and they see an ad for it or publicity, they don't even know it's the same book.
Right. Well, actually, it's been re-released in America as the Book of Negroes. But what you're asking is important, because there has been on the Twitter feed, from what I understand, people saying, I don't want to see nothing else about no Negroes. You know, I don't want to see nothing about no Negroes. You know, and we have to be proactive in letting people know that what this story is about. We hear, I don't want to see no other slave story, and that burns my behind, because why don't you want to hear a slave story? Is that story not important because it was lived by a slave? And their humanity has already been stripped from them, and you're stripping them again of their humanity because you're stripping them of their story and saying their story does not matter because they were enslaved. So that is, quite frankly, what you're talking about, what you mentioned, that is affecting our being able to get to the public. We've had magazines. I mean, you know, you would think that in 2 weeks I would be on every female talk show on television, right? No. We've been turned down by them all.
What?
By them all. By them all. No, but really. Really. And I believe, and I'm glad I'm hearing some white women here say, like, what? You know? Because to me it's shameful, because it's like, what else is there? There's nothing like this on television. There's nothing, you know, we don't have these stories where you feel good. If you want this woman to survive. You want her to do well. You know, can I do something?
It's your show.
Yeah. I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say about that, because we are fighting a battle right now with, you know, trying to get this out there, trying to get this story told, and just sort of being you know, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's, you know, fatigue, I don't know what it is, but I'm interested as consumers what you think. Yeah.
Do I need to come down?
I think you do.
Can I say this though? Don't tell me I suck. That's don't say that. You can say it when you leave. Just don't tell me.
No. I go to RISD, and I've been participating in a lot of the activism going around Ferguson and the Black Lives Matter movement. And you read the comments in social media and all these articles about race and about what's going on in this country, and people say, can we stop talking about race? Can we stop race baiting? And I think people don't want to talk about this anymore, and it's unfortunate that that's how they view these things, these discussions that we should be having.
Yeah. Yes, please, yeah. I can hear y'all. I mean, can we all hear each other?
Yeah.
We can just talk.
Okay. Right now in our society, there are states that are trying to mess with the voting rights. People are having to go through really difficult times to actually go and register to vote. So in a way, there are things going backwards. And perhaps there are some people in the country who don't want to be reminded that we were there and we're going back there, because this picture, your picture, puts it right smack in our faces again. And it's important that we see it, because that's the kind of piece that reminds us that the work's not done. We still can see things happening in that film that are happening right now. The N-word is slung all over the place all the time. And down south, where I'm from Georgia, the woods, and I can smell racism a mile away, and it exists. What?
He and I are from Mississippi, so that's why we're like, yeah.
Yeah, so, no, it has value, and it needs to be out there. And whoever your people are who are saying they don't want to put money into the advertising, did I misunderstand?
I'm just saying, we don't have billboards, we don't have ads.
Yeah, you don't have any of that, so who's your PR team? I mean, what are they thinking?
You are.
Okay,
You're my PR
so
team.
they want to see it. It's only it's been in the can for a year?
About 6 months.
6 months, so it's really new. You never know, it's things like this, it could just, the word of mouth.
Yeah, we need word of mouth.
But if there's money, if they were able to afford to go to Africa and to Nova Scotia and all these places and all this shooting and editing and getting the film in the can and seeing it, it's beautifully shot. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to first?
My name's Maya. I'm the current fellow for the Center for the Study of Slavery and Justice. I think one of the issues in terms of people not wanting to see any more slave movies or any more civil rights movies is that there isn't a space to process what you see. I think for me, I had to convince myself to watch 12 Years a Slave for an entire year. And I remember watching it and not knowing how to process it and not having a circle of people that I could talk to about what I was feeling, what I was thinking, the frustrations I had. And so I wonder if there was anything that you guys did as a cast and crew to process the story that you were telling.
I had good people. I worked with a lot of people who were very, very kind. So, and I have a great support system and with my family and my friends, and I was able to, I had somebody to talk to. But a lot of the stuff I had to do by myself. I just had to go in my quiet place and work it out. But I hear what you're saying about not having that place to process.
I would suggest that some of the slave films that have come up recently are really traumatizing to audiences, and so people just have a hard time seeing it. And I think that I think of Chimamanda Adichie's TED Talk about the dangers of a single story. I don't know if you've heard it before, but she talks about just the narrow views that we develop about people in general and how damaging that can be. I think when it comes to slavery, when it comes to just Africans in general, I think people have a very narrow and single story about what it represents. And so, unfortunately, I think the good thing about this piece is that it creates a more complexity for the idea of slavery and the idea of just, these are kidnapped Africans. They're not slaves. We talk about ourselves as being descendants of slaves, and we're just, we're not. And so I think people have a very narrow, single idea of what it is that this piece is about, and unfortunately, it does the opposite of what a lot of the other slave pieces have done in the past few years. So maybe we can change that.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Gretchen? Gretchen?
Thank you, Mr. Tolu. Oh, and thank you, Aunjanue. That performance was absolutely stunning. So, and I think we all agree with that. I come from a media background, media advertising PR background, and so I come from it from that angle. When we talk about why the advertising is missing, why the banner ads and all of that are missing, and I think in addition to the truth that everyone else has already told about processing and all of that, I think too
I think advertisers make assumptions about what we want to watch, and then they make choices about what they'll put their money into as far as programming. So I mean, that's just on a consumerism level. And part of it is that the audience, that BET audience, that traditional BET audience, may not be demanding certain programming. And therefore the advertisers are then assuming that we're not interested, that we won't watch it, and therefore their commercials won't be viewed. And so it gets down to a bottom line idea there. And so we have to demand this kind of programming if we want the advertisers to pay for the programming to be out there, and therefore for the ads to be in the magazines, for the, for all of that to happen. So part of this is really on us as the consumers. We have to demand it, or else the advertisers, they're not going to buy into the programming. So, if this, unfortunately, I have to say that if this program were about something related to professional athletes or the music industry, or if it was the BET Awards, you wouldn't have had a problem with advertising. So I think it really is about consumers and what we are demanding of our programming. So I just wanted to share that aspect of it.
Can we just take a few more and then, yes please, yes ma'am.
Oh, sorry about that. Short, I can't talk that high. It is such a privilege to both see the excerpts of your miniseries and to have you talk to us in person. And obviously you are such a passionate advocate for the history, for this character. And I'm just wondering, how might this affect you in future roles as an actress? Because it almost seems to me like you have a cause now of how you're talking to us of let's get the word out, let's spread it. So how would this affect some of your movie choices of being in a sports or a music type of movie?
Halle Berry said one of the most inspiring things I've ever heard anybody say. She said, acting is a vocation, not an avocation. So it's not my hobby, it's how I keep the lights on in my house. So, I wish that I could be like, well, I won't do that. I do all that now. I pray for that kind of liberty, but it hasn't found me yet. So it's no telling what you may see me next. I mean, if I could, every job I would get would be telling the stories, especially for women and people of color, people who don't have voices and are underrepresented. That's what I would do, and especially if they have a historical bent. I have a passion for, Assata Shakur, who's a Black Panther, and I think her story is definitely relevant now with what's happening with Cuba. So advocacy in my acting is my dream life. So I pray that I get another opportunity like this. But I have been a little spoiled.
Can I thank you all, and can I thank you for the work that you are doing? Thank you very much.